On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, I was having a chat with a friend of mine, Kyle, who's a hockey fan, and he only lives in his bubble of his team and nothing outside of that. So he asked me the other day, how are the Avalanche doing this year? When I told him that they're sixth overall in the league, his reaction is what we're going to talk about in the top of today's episode. Let's talk about that and a lot more on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche. Coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. If you want to get in on the conversation, join our subtext. Link is in the show notes below. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, and share it on this very podcast. A lot to get to today. If you're on YouTube, you can see we're gonna rank the new guys. And new guys as in who they inherited in trades this year, how they're doing this year, who's we think that at the top of that new guy rankings, who's at the bottom of that, and what's the focus for the rest of the regular season. Got a handful of games left. What's on the mind of the Avs going forward through the end of the regular season? But where we're going to start, Kyle, is like I said at the opening. Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend who is a hockey fan, but just in his world of the New York Rangers and nothing else. He doesn't really know what's going on. And I've had another friend of mine who's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and he's the same way. He has no idea what's going on. Like all he cares about, he just focuses in on the Steelers week to week, doesn't care what's going on. And it's a weird world for me to live. Like, I don't know if I could do that. Like, no. Not that I like am so involved with every single team across the league, but I know what's going on. I know what the standings look like. I know who's having good seasons and stuff like that. I don't know if I could just singularly focus on one team and shut the rest of the league out. That's a talent.
No, that's how I got into sports. I always kept, like, I have a lot of siblings. I have a lot of brothers, and we always would fight about literally every sport in every league. So I always kept tabs on every other team just so I could like have one other on my brothers. So,
well, even like in the days of, NES and like Tecmo Super Bowl, I played multiple teams. I wasn't just the Broncos. I'd always play with different teams because Bo Jackson is awesome in Tecmo Bowl. So anyway, and he did, like he we were just having a conversation and he asked me how the Avs are doing. I'm like, oh, they've done pretty well. They've turned things around and they're sixth overall in the league. And his reaction was one of like shock, not in that like he knows the Avalanche have Nathan McKinnon. He that's the thing. He knows who these guys are. He's not so oblivious. He knows that they'll always be in the mix, but. And he was just like, wow, I didn't think they were, I just didn't think that they were going to be that good or up towards the top of the standings. And it kind of made me think like, I can kind of see where people think that way because there's a lot of big storylines going on across the league. And there's, other teams that are above them, obviously. And I feel like the focus is all on that. And it's like, sure, Ovechkin is close to breaking the scoring record or the goals record. That's a ton of focus for just casual fans. How the Capitals are doing in general is, a big story. And then you have just, other teams that everybody's in love with right now. People are in love with, who the defending champion is. So you're going to have Florida. Dallas seems to be the team that everybody's in love with right now. And I can understand that. And it made me think like, wow, like, because we obviously do this show. So we focus on the Avalanche and we know how good they are. But I stood back and I'm like, it does seem like the Avalanche are kind of sliding under the radar right now. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We want that. Well, let me let you, I don't want to go on too long, but go ahead. I'll get your take on this. Go.
Yeah, I get that both ways. And like, if you said the Avalanche were sixth in the league right now, I'm pretty sure you would get 50-50 reaction. Like, oh, that's surprising because I haven't heard about them. Or, oh, sixth, it's the Avalanche. Sure, whatever.
Right.
You like shrug it off and roll it off. And like, it's no mystery. Like when the Avs aren't, geared up and ready to go, I'm watching Devils games. And Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar are mentioned in non-Avalanche broadcasts all the time.
Mhm.
You really don't hear about like the Avalanche as a team. It's just Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. So they exist, but honestly, it has been a quiet year. And like Nathan McKinnon is doing. You remember how crazy it was when we were like, oh, you remember the years of 100 points? You remember where that would get you? Now we're stringing it together. Nathan's doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of accustomed to it now. And I think everybody's just kind of used to the Avs doing their thing. Like,
Yeah.
last 10 games, the Avs are 8-1-1. Are they trendy? They should be. But you're used to it. This is what the Avs do. This is why Bednar never wins the Jack Adams, because this is business as usual for the Colorado Avalanche.
I was going to bring up Bednar. I'll do that in a minute, but I think it goes to, a bigger point of like, sure. Cale Makar is going to get talked about. Nathan McKinnon is going to get talked about. The trade of Mikko Rantanen is going to get talked about. But outside of that's, how those individual guys are playing. As a team, it doesn't seem like the Avs get discussed in just hockey talk from around the league. So someone like him, who is just has his ear loosely on what's going on around the league, doesn't hear a lot of feedback on how the Avs are doing as a team. Probably heard a ton about the Mikko Rantanen trade. Always going to hear about Cale Makar. Always going to know that Nathan McKinnon is leading the league in points and stuff like that. But how are they doing as a team? Doesn't get talked about a lot. And I think that's, for me, part of the reason why I always want the Avalanche to be a good team is, one, because I root for them and I want the teams I root for to do well. The other is just because they are like a mid-market team, like a mid-major team, to use a college analogy. I want those teams to succeed more than the major markets, because the major markets are always going to be there. They're always going to be the focal point. And when a team like the Avalanche, who's had success over the last handful of years, it's kind of like a jealousy thing. Like, I want them to be in the conversation with the LA Kings of the world and the New York Rangers of the world and the original 6 teams and stuff like that. I know it's never going to be a level playing field with stuff like that, but it's just like, for the years that they're good, talk about them more. It's just, I know it's just a personal thing that I kind of like latch on to. And it is a little bit of jealousy. And I like when, if I'm rooting for a team like the Avalanche, that's a mid-market team, when they're performing as well as they do, like, that's who I want that to be in the discussion more than it is.
Yeah, you like last year when Nathan McKinnon was chasing that point streak behind Gretzky. You didn't hear about it until he was in the shadow, like right there knocking on the door. It wasn't mainstream, like you weren't on Gretzky watch like you are this year for like the OV race. And honestly, again, it goes twofold. Yeah, it's the Avalanche. You really don't hear about them because, they're not in a big, huge, sexy market that you always like. You hear about Toronto all the time, even though they're not great.
Sure.
You hear about like New York Rangers. You hear about your big teams. Like, you still hear about Boston, and nothing's going on there. Like, you just don't. Colorado's not normal conversation. But then when you see Nathan McKinnon's got, he's been the first to 40, 50, 60 points. You're just like, okay, that's the Avalanche. That's what they do. When the Avs are in 6th, you're just like, that's the Avs. They're doing what they do. When you see an Avalanche goalie in Vezina talks, you're just like, it's an Avalanche goalie. When the playoffs roll around, for those casual hockey fans, you're like, okay, where are the Avalanche? You're expecting them to be there. Mm-hmm. You don't need that constant narrative and to be reminded that they exist. They're there because of their talent. And you're almost, it's so weird because we saw the dark days where they had the most miserable record in the NHL and nothing could go right. And now you're just like, let me know when the playoffs start. It's just a weird turnaround for the Avalanche.
You mentioned the Bruins, and I think that's a good team to bring up right now. Like, it's a little bit frustrating that the Bruins get talked about and how bad they are this year than a team like the Avalanche and how good they are. And that just shows you like where, and I get it. That's the media. Those are big markets. Those have massive fan bases. And whether the team is doing well or they're doing poor, they're going to get talked about. And that's part of the reason is like, well, it's the Boston Bruins. They shouldn't be, performing how they're performing. Let's talk about that. Let's beat that into the ground. And it makes me, you mentioned Jared Bednar. And we've had another year where every once in a while, the NHL Network on their social media pages puts up graphics on, they have like, they take like, polls of voters and who they would vote for the Jack Adams. And all throughout this year, Jared Bednar's not even in the other receiving votes small print on these graphics. And this is a year where I don't think, I mean, even last year, I didn't really think like he should have won it. But I think Jared Bednar should at least, we've talked about this so many times, Kyle, they should be at least in the conversation year in and year out with how these Avalanche teams play year in and year out. There's always some adversity, and that's true for a lot of teams. I understand that. But the stat you hear a lot of in Avalanche world this year is how many guys that they have dressed. It was like 45, 46 or something like that, which is more than anybody in the league. So how are you not going to give credit to the guy who's managing all of those bodies and has them 6th overall in the entire league? How are you going to not even put him in the conversation? I don't think he should win it, but should he be in the conversation? I don't find the argument against it.
After trading Mikko Rantanen away, plugging all these new guys in and they work, messing with the lines to where all these pieces fit, and Nathan MacKinnon's not even really a goal scoring machine. Like, he's been quiet, and like this team is still 6th. Again, like you move all these pieces in and out of this Avalanche team, they're still where they are. I think it goes a little bit above McKinnon, McCarr. It might be the voice on the bench that has something to do with it. And this year might be one of those where, hey, this Bednar guy might be up to something.
They'll say it personally, but they won't vote for him. And I think Spencer Carter should be winning it this year in Washington, if you ask me.
Yeah,
I'm sure Lisa over in Subtexty is liking that comment. But guys like that who were not expected to do what he's doing, fine. I have no problem with that. But it drives me crazy. Like we're just accepting the fact that, like you were saying earlier, the Avalanche are 6th in the league. Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And that kind of just trickles down to Jared Bednar. Oh yeah, he's a great coach. We don't need to recognize him. Okay, that's fine. I've accepted it. I haven't moved on from it, but I've accepted it that he's probably never going to win it. And I think that is the new Nathan MacKinnon's never won the Hart to me.
Oh yeah.
But mentioning Nathan MacKinnon, I'm going to bring him up in our next segment about, what the focus is for the remainder of the season for the Colorado Avalanche before they hit the playoffs. So let's do that next. First, we're going to hear from Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. And whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. So visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork, UPWORK.com, upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. And Game Time's newest feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. They have super deals, and with Game Time Picks, they even highlight these super deals, giving you the best bang for your buck. And you get peace of mind with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, so you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON NHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it, Mr. Sullivan?
It's game time.
Yes. All right. So let's get to what's left in the regular season for the Avalanche. Still some things that they have to button up, tidy up. Anything that's forefront on your mind of what needs to happen here for this team?
I would be treating this remaining quote unquote for audio listeners. I'm doing the fingers in
Air
the
quotes.
air. This is garbage time, and I would like to see the Avalanche treating this period of time like they did before the Four Nations. Bednar made that call, like, we're treating this like the playoffs. Well, this is still a relatively new squad. You're still getting relatively acquainted with everyone. Split time evenly between both goalies and learn how to string together wins with this team.
Yeah. You got 11 games left. I agree with you on like that. That's probably the focal point of the team on top of winning games. That's always your focal point, right? It's funny. Like you like that term garbage time right now. And I was thinking about it earlier today when we were kind of deciding like what we want to do for tonight. And you threw that out there. And I don't dislike the phrasing. I think I would be more apt to call it that if the Avs were bad. I think for the bad teams, it's garbage time. It's figuring out what's going to work for next year. Just all of the stuff that, you just got to finish out the year. And for personal guys making, maybe personal records and stuff like that. But for, teams in the Avalanche world and, all your top ranking guys or top ranking teams, I don't know if they would call it that because that just insinuates like there's nothing to be won here. And it's interesting because that's part of one of the things that I have down is not only what you said is right about, because you have all these new guys, getting them as much cohesion as possible. But, where do you want to finish? Like home ice. Do you want to go after that? Sure. I don't think and they're not going to kind of like sit back and just say like, well, the rest of the season doesn't matter. So I think that is one of the bigger things from a team perspective. Let's go after and see if we can get home ice. So those are, I think, the two things at the top of the list for the Avs of just, you have 11 games left, get these guys as much cohesion as possible, and let's win games in the process and see if we can get a round at home. Why not?
And see, I think that problem kind of writes itself if you look at it reverse. And the term garbage time also works when you get that little letter by your name, when everybody changes their name on social media and has that X right next to it. Because you clinched, you're in, like basically you're good to go. The rest of the season doesn't matter. That's usually when we get to see a little bit of Kovalenko. You remember last year, you get to see all the new guys, like you get to see them try out the ELC. You're like, ooh, I can't wait till next year. That's when you get to try that kind of stuff out. And honestly, with this team being so new, you want to see this team really work on. And when you string those wins together and you treat everything like it's a playoff series, and I know Bednar likes to look at his 10-game stretches, break it down, win 4 in a row. Treat it like that, win 4 in a row. And then guess what? You turn around, and then home ice is in your lap. If you treat it that way, you're going to win yourself to that position that you want. You don't have to try. If you focus on the small things, no pun intended, good things happen when you win games and string them together. And that's what this team needs to do, because the last couple games the Avalanche have had, you have won games in all different facets and mediums, whether it's referees and weird calls and shootouts, and you're winning the games that you need to learn how to win as a team. I want to see that continue through the rest of this time as you're chasing home ice. But honestly, your trajectory is in a good spot to get into the playoffs.
Right.
And you can't really lose it, and you don't want to see this team lose it.
Yeah, I think because they have so many new faces, they're going to utilize every single one of these games to get them in the fold and in the mix. If they only made a couple depth moves here and there, you're probably right. You're probably, let's just get to the postseason healthy. let's still work on our game and be playing good hockey when we're entering the playoffs. All of that remains true no matter who's on your team. But because they have so many new guys, and you've seen Jared Bednar mixing lines, just, hey, introducing new guys to new lines. I get all that. It's weird. There's a lot of work to be done and not a lot of time left. So the Avs are probably looking at these last 11 games differently than some other teams. And you can say that about other teams looking at how they're looking at the last 10, 11, 12 games, whatever it may be. Personally, individually, I think, the two guys that are going to get popped up, Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon. I think McKinnon, with Draisaitl, he's going to be out a couple more games, I think. I think he's going to be out like a week, they said. So he's going to miss some games. That might, if he can utilize those games that Draisaitl's out to sock away some points. Last year he won his first Art Ross, I think, or not. He won his first Hart. This year he's looking for his first Art Ross. I think, on a individual level, you're looking at that. And for Cale Makar, can he get to the 30 goal mark? I think those two things are, from an individual perspective, what Avalanche players are looking at right now.
Yeah, and those are the little personal achievements that you like to see him get out of the way. Really like to see Cale Makar go for that, get that 30 goal mark, because I really think like his legend is already established, and I think this is the real stepping stone to send him to possible Hart conversation next year.
Cale, yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah,
I'd love Cale Makar getting a Hart trophy at some point. So we shall see. All right, mentioned the new guys a lot. Let's rank them. How they doing so far? So we'll do that. We'll do that next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, sir. A lot of moves made by the Avs this year, so we figured we haven't done a power ranking in quite a while.
Yeah, I know.
Quite a while. So we'll rank these guys. How we're going to do it with this is all the moves that they made. So we're going back to the goalie moves, and we're putting the Woodshed as one player. I don't know if that's fair or not, but that's how we're doing it. So we have them. Coyle, Nelson, Drury, EJ, Natius, Lindgren, VC. I think that's all of them. I have my list. You have your list?
I do.
Okay. We'll start at number 8 and work our way up. We'll get through the lower guys fairly quickly, and then I'm sure we'll talk about the top guys. But I think we have an agreement on who's 8 right now. Jimmy VC.
Oh, yeah.
And hasn't played a ton, so hasn't really shown what he can do, but we'll see if he gets a few more games before the season's over. But I think he's comfortably at the 8 spot.
Yeah. Abe Kubel 2.0.
Who you got for 7?
I got Charlie Coyle.
I got EJ.
Interesting.
The funny thing is, for the rest of these guys, like I have EJ at 7, but that doesn't mean I'm disappointed with how he's played. No. I think everybody else outside of Jimmy VC, I think has done exceptionally well for the Avs. So yeah, I have EJ at 7, but that's I don't want to make that a knock on him. So
no,
so you got Coyle at 7.
I got Coyle at 7, and because I have that EJ flipped, I have him at 6 because I think EJ is actually providing a little bit more than anticipated. We thought it was just a good story, but hey, he's been solid and stepping up in the injury absence. And Coyle, he's still trying to get his feet under him in Colorado. It's getting there, but you would like to see a little bit more, a little bit sooner. But EJ, he's surpassed my expectations so far. So I already find this move a success.
Yeah, I agree with you that he's done better than he's played more than I thought he would. But is he doing anything extraordinary when he's out there? No. So I didn't want to put him higher than that because when he's out there, he's fine. But he's not been a liability or anything like that. But I think he's just he's just out there doing his thing, and that's completely fine. Just don't screw anything up, and we'll be happy. So I have him at 7. 6, you had EJ at 6. I have Jack Drury at 6.
Interesting.
And again, not a knock on him. I think it's just a depth thing. It's a little bit more difficult for him to kind of show really what he can do when he's just at the limited minutes that he's at. But with those limited minutes, I think he's been great. He's been good on faceoffs. The line that he's centering, there's been many times where they've been the best line. Their fourth line has been the best line out there. So I think he's been a great addition, and I just I want to see what he does for the rest of the year, and obviously in the playoffs. But he's been great.
Yeah, and he is also on my list. I want you to give me your number 5 next because Jack Drury is my number 5.
That's where Coyle is for me.
Okay,
at 5. I'm really liking what he's been doing. When they made their moves and they were done with the trade deadline and we had our team, I said on the episode, they now have players in spots where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And Brock Nelson is a 2C. They're not going to ask him to do more than that. And then same with Coyle. Coyle is a 3C. They're not going to ask him to do more than that. Outside of even killing penalties, which he's been great at. He had the penalty shot, or not penalty shot, a shootout, technically penalty shot that that went in the other day. So I feel like, and he's just a big body, so he does great up against the boards. I really like what Charlie Coyle's been bringing to this team.
So. I'm not that high on him yet, but I can see why you would. And looking at him from a positional standpoint, I get that. I have Drury at 5.
Okay, talk about him.
I think he came in and fit right in. I think he's honestly the way you summarized. Honestly, I think how you're talking about Coyle is how I saw Drury when he first got here. Yeah, he kind of cooled off a little bit. I like Drury a lot. I do. And I think I can't wait to see what he looks like in the playoffs. But yeah, I got him at 5. I really, really like him.
Yeah. No, I don't deny that. I disagree with you. Who you got at 4?
Oh boy, at 4 I got Lindgren.
I have Brock Nelson at 4.
Interesting.
And if it wasn't for the most recent stretch of 2 games, I'd probably have him at 5.
Yeah, I agree.
And have Coyle at 4, believe it or not. I'd probably have Coyle that high. But what Nelson's done over the past couple of games, I think you're starting to see the slow ascent. If we do this at the end of the year, he might be towards the top. But just took him a few games to get ready. But the thing, he's so good in those games that he was kind of adjusting, he was fine. Like he wasn't doing anything wrong. He wasn't, turning the puck over and making poor decisions. Just needed to figure out where he's got to be positionally and who are these new guys that I'm playing with that on my wings. And, he's a veteran. That stuff will come to him quickly, and you're starting to see it now. And on top of that, a game-winning shootout goal the other day. So he's starting to go up the rankings, but right now he's overall, since I got him at 4.
And I get that, but he's also on my list, and I'm going to talk about him in a second.
Okay, because I have Lindgren at 3.
And that's why I have Lindgren at 4, because yes, he's been great. Kind of surpassing what we anticipated when he came in. But I have him a little bit lower than Brock because there has been some moments where it hasn't hit. And you're just like, oh, what are you doing? So, but he has given you a lot of plus. So
sure,
you're seeing plus minus where honestly that hasn't really existed with EJ yet. Lindgren has made those mistakes where you're like, oh, come on. EJ hasn't. EJ's just doing his thing. He's a vet. Lindgren, I like his upsides, but you want to see him smooth out the rough stuff. I have him at 4.
I was questioning this move when they got him, and it was totally I'm going to put my faith in the Avs front office for why they wanted to bring in Lindgren, because just things were not going well for him in New York. But I think the Avs are sold on their system. They're sold on their analytics department, and they felt like we can bring this guy in and he will thrive in our system. I don't want to say that he's done that. I don't know if he's been thriving, but he's pretty darn close to it. I think defensively, he's been great. He's pitching in offensively a little bit here and there, which is great to see. He's settled in much better than I thought that he would when they picked him up. So surprisingly, I got him at 3 right now. But,
well, that's where I have Brock Nelson, because everything you say about settling in and analytics, Brock Nelson to AT, and he's settling in and he's feeling comfortable. And after these last 2 games and his little, he's really getting comfortable. I cannot wait to see him in the playoffs. What he adds to this team, I think he is a perfect fit for this Avalanche team. And I cannot wait to see what else he has in this quote unquote garbage time.
How about number 2?
I think we're in agreement here.
Okay.
Marty Necas.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, he is.
Go ahead.
He's filled the hole of the shoes, the huge shadow of the moose that is loose and got some teeth loose after the game tonight, after taking a puck to the face.
Yeah.
But he's filled in incredible. You took that Batman and Robin dynamic of Mikko and Nate, and now you have like Batman and Green Arrow or Superman. Like, it's another style that Nate complements Nate. It's not somebody that works with Nate, it complements. And I really like their dynamic. He's incredible out there. He never stops, he never quits. Even when he isn't tallying points, he's a presence, and he has been an incredible addition.
You absolutely 100% had to hit a home run with who you were bringing in getting rid of Mikko Rantanen. And it couldn't be, the Avs were not in a position to just inherit draft picks and prospects for him. Like, you even getting rid of Mikko Rantanen, you are still in we are out for a Stanley Cup mode. And they absolutely nailed it with Necas. He's been and it's great that the Avs fan base also welcomed him in too, because who they got rid of, it was a all-time fan favorite. And as good as Necas is, like in the beginning, you could have had some booze raining down on him to no fault of his own, but his play has just come alive. Not that it wasn't in Carolina, but if there is a player that was just destined and perfect for what the Avalanche do, it is Marty Necas, and Chris McFarland knew that. So he's been nothing short of just amazing for them. He's been fantastic.
And you know what? That means we're in agreement on number 1, which everybody sit back and enjoy our 72-minute symposium on the best addition to Colorado Avalanche, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. What he brings with
cooking.
his cooking show. And no, it's the Lumberyard.
Yeah, it is. It's so crazy how we've talked about this, how we don't think about it anymore, that the goalie position, because that was going into the season and how the season started, and to turn it around and to just have confidence, no matter which one of these guys is starting, to go into that game and feel good about your goaltending. It is just a relief that I don't take lightly and I don't take for granted.
Yeah, it's like we've been walking around in 2025 with a Razor phone at the beginning of the year, and we both upgraded to our first smartphone, and we're like, I can't believe we existed this long without it.
Yeah,
like,
I'm glad you got it.
Like, all the things this team has built off of just replacing the goalies and not having to excuse their efforts. It's complete. It's changed the dynamic, the confidence, the look, and the swagger of this team. And it's been a problem, we know, for a while, but it's so much better when you don't have to constantly make it look better than it is.
And both of them.
Yeah.
Both. You didn't just go out and get a starting goalie and say, like, hey, our backup's our backup. We only need him to play every once in a while. And if he's not that great, okay, we'll sacrifice that game. No, that just shows you like how committed this team is. Every position, they're going to be the best that they can be, including your backup goalie. And that is where the game of hockey is right now.
Yeah.
With it is tandems. It is not there's your starting goalie and he gets the lion's share of the starts. It's not that way anymore. You need your backup goalie to be ready every single day. And we have it now. We have it. And it is such a relief. Such a relief. So, but with all of these guys, all of them, you got to do it in a month.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. So I'm liking where these things are at.
And I can't wait to see our goalie tandem of Blackwood and Wedgwood versus Detroit's tandem of Mrazek and Talbot. Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. So we shall see that on Tuesday night. So I don't know. No, it's too early. But I don't know if Detroit's playing a back-to-back or anything like that. So whatever. I haven't looked at scores tonight yet. So why don't I go do that? Let's wrap. They're playing right now.
They're playing Utah, and they're up 2-1.
And who's in goal?
Good question, my friend. I can tell you in just a second.
I got it coming up here.
Leon,
both of them,
and Mrazek.
Mrazek was okay. Something's going on. They both got stats. So
talk about a tandem.
Okay, all right. I don't know who's going to be in net for tomorrow or today.
They're side by side in the net.
Yeah. So, but we're going to be talking about that game tomorrow. So tune in to that one. But for this one, thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Throw your rankings in the comment section if you want to. So he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And you are 24 hours closer. Sidney Crosby being in a Colorado Avalanche sweater, and he would have been number one on this list. Easy.
No.